with this marker technology and other technologies, you're narrowing it down, the focus where you start. So you're starting with the right stuff, and then you're able to work through it quicker. So you don't actually have to grow plants out anymore to see what they look like. You can actually speed this process up. I'll talk about the chipper technology in a minute. Right now, in fact. Hard to take an exciting picture of a piece of machinery, but believe me, that chipper on the slide there it's just amazing what this will deliver. We have chippers built now for corn and soy, and just got one together for wheat. And this one here, well, the one of relevance to this room is more the cucurbit chipper for melons and cucumbers. And so what this piece of gear does is lets you look at millions of seeds at once for a start. It just the capacity is enormous. And what it does is, because it's called a chipper, it just takes a shaving off the seed. You take that shaving, you analyse it, you look at the genome, and then you can make a decision whether to take that seed forward in your screening trials or ditch it based on the genetics. So just think back to what used to have to happen. That seed used to have to be planted, multiple locations around the world, grow it out, check its vigour, check its yield, how resistant is it to disease. Some products you want to see how the produce stores, so that might have to go in storage for 6 months or 12 months or whatever, depending on the crop you're looking at. So just a huge time frame between actually saying, what will this seed deliver? Well, for us now, with our mapping and our market technology, having a little bit of a look at that, the genome, having a look at that little piece that you've shaved off, you can pick which seeds you take through the program. So it's just putting the program on fast forward. Just a couple of product examples, just so the pipeline is starting to flow, but really this is early days. This is a concept called Easy Harvest broccoli. What it does, again, it's one that's probably more on the production end, but not just. The focus of this product is that raised head, open head, and what that will do is, well, for the consumer, it does have the benefit of a more uniform, beautiful green colour. For the grower, the other focus is obviously with the name Easy Harvest for efficiencies during that harvest process. Mechanical or even just more efficient hand harvesting. We've been certainly working towards mechanical harvest, but it's been good. I've been pleased when I've been talking to growers that they would see even just that raised head being a huge innovation for just better hand harvest, quicker hand harvest, more uniform crop, so that not only is it easy to harvest when you get there, but it's already uniformly. So yeah, an exciting product, particularly for producers. Just a couple of disease slides here. So Phytophthora is the biggest pest for peppers globally, including capsicums. So yeah, a lot of work going on there, and we'll deliver shortly. Gemini virus, very topical in Australia at the moment with leaf curl up in Queensland, northern Queensland. So again, we're working through this at 1 million miles an hour to come out with varieties that are both, can handle both the leaf curl situation and also fusarium. That's our focus, to have the best product for both of those diseases. Okay, this is where it moves to the next phase. As I said earlier, we've always been sort of focused at that grower end and at that production end, and making sure that we've got that covered, that end of the supply chain covered. But moving now to this consumer piece, and it's been talked about a lot over the last 2 days, just the disturbing trend that the consumption of fruit and vegetables is at best stalled in the developed world, if not dropped off a little bit. And I think Australia, New Zealand jumped out of the blocks, and we have quite good per capita consumption, but we got there about 15 years ago, and we need to push it further. So to do this consumer piece, fruit and vegetable needs to be more appealing. So our long-term strategy is developing those products that'll draw through to consumer level. So better taste, better flavour, better appearance. And a near-term strategy, which is why we're a big part of the region while we're at PMA, is getting a much better understanding of the whole industry and who we need to be interacting with to make these consumer traits reality. We know we just can't come up with consumer traits, deliver them in a seed to a grower, and they won't magically happen. We need to form a lot of partnerships and need to do a lot of listening through the industry to get to where we need to be. So it's again, consistent trend through the conference, just the sensory experiences of taste and aroma and colour and obviously flavour, but much bigger than that as well. You know, the storageability, how does it make its way through the supply chain and come out at the other end. So, as I said, consistent trends. Just a little aside, there's a Bella Verde product, which is our sweet stem broccoli product, which is getting a lot of traction in the in Europe at the moment, and certainly have plans to fire that up in Australia and New Zealand as well. Beneforte is, our first sort of foray into these nutritional benefits, I guess, and these are much more tricky as far as I'm concerned. So we've got Beneforte, and what it will deliver, or what it does deliver, is it boosts antioxidants. And it's got the ability to do that at twice the rate of normal broccoli. So good product, good concept. Now the trick is, how do we make that a reality? How do we get that? How do we get that so that it can be differentiated at point of sale, and that consumers will request it, and that everyone through the supply chain can see value in it. Just finally, the whole focus of Monsanto from production to consumption, that's the key thing. We've got the technology to deliver these products, but what we're also working on now is this working right through the supply chain, getting to know everyone, understanding where they see value. What would we need to do on our products to give value to not just the people at either end, the producers and the consumers, but also all the stakeholders along the chain. So at the very least, not impact on them negatively, but preferably impact on them positively. And I mean, probably the obvious one is volume. If we can increase volume, that's a good day for everyone at this conference. So if that alone is something that we can be a part of, then that will be a good thing. Just to conclude, so we're a company that's going to be successful because of our extensive germplasm, coupled with the breeding technologies that we have access to already, and that we're continuing to develop and plough more research into. So we're definitely focused on increasing consumption by focusing on flavour, appearance, and better quality produce. And we'd like to think that we're going to actually deliver something to the industry far beyond Monsanto and producers, that it's going to actually be of great value to the whole industry, starting from now and starting to power away over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. We've got time just for a couple of questions before we wind the session up. So who would like to start? I've got one question. Can you give an example of the difference of the GM sweet corn that you've just released in the US compared to what we're producing over here? What are some of the enhancements or the benefits?
Yes, well, the product that we're currently launching is very much, it's a production trait again. It's about protecting the crop from insect pests, root and above ground insect pests. So it's very much in that production side of of GM, not the consumer trait piece. And of course, given that we're one of the biggest corn companies in the world, it just made perfect sense that it was an easy segue to go to biotech sweet corn when we're the world's leading company in biotech corn. So
And that's been readily accepted by the people?
It's being launched as we speak, but as a general comment, the acceptance through the supply chain and of consumers in America for GM it's there.
Any questions?
Just an extension of that. Why is that the case in the US versus the really negative attitude GMs in Europe and other parts of the world?
I think the US strangely has, if something's a benefit to the growers, that seems to help a lot with acceptance in the US. Even though it's a massive urban population in the US, they do seem to have an affinity with farming, and And if something's good for the growing side of the industry, that as long as it's been through a rigorous regulatory process on food safety, etc., that the consumer is accepting of it. Whereas I don't think we're there in Australia. I know that I heard at least one speaker in the last couple of days talk about the need for the average consumer to understand farming better, and I think that would certainly, that'd be completely change the game for acceptance of GM.
Martin?
A question for both speakers. If we're not in a position to help the world, this pending sort of food shortage, what's going to happen? And is that a train crash, or is it going to sort itself out?
Yeah, well, I think we definitely are in a position to help. We haven't focused on that here today with fruit and vegetables, but there is definitely opportunity with fruit and vegetables. But if I look to the other side of agriculture in Australia, then there's a massive opportunity on the grains side of the industry to help. But even with fruit and veg, I've only been involved in fruit and vegetables at Monsanto for a year, but one thing that has really frustrated me is having good soil, plenty of water, and amazing producers, but nowhere to send it all. And particularly, I think that when I visited New Zealand, I found that quite impactful. That there's definitely opportunity there if we can get produce overseas quickly and keep it fresh. I think there is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. When we talk about feeding the world, there's always going to be segments of feeding the world, and you've just got to understand where you fit. And so feeding the world will include feeding the premium sector of the world. And I think you can operate in all sectors, and you've got to decide what sectors we operate in. And it will vary. In grains, we can be a low-cost producer and produce a high-quality product and be a large-scale producer. But in some of the other commodities, or some of the other products, not commodities, then I think we'll be looking at different sectors rather than the broad, high throughput delivery.
One last question.
This is a question perhaps more for you, Dan. It's about the time to market and the magnitude of the investment required for the newer cultivars of peat fruit, for example. You mentioned 20 years breeding program, etc. If you can give us the magnitude of the time it takes from a concept to get it to market, what scale of investment is involved? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you're starting a new program, then you've got a long time frame, and the expense is substantial now because, as we've heard, there's a lot of underpinning genomic science now in understanding what's happening in your varieties, and that's how we're operating at Apple. We're looking at flavour genes, we're looking at texture genes, we're looking at colour genes, so the resistance genes. So all of that is a very expensive program, and figure out of the air what's Plant and Food spent in that last 10 years, maybe $40 million. So it is expensive. In terms of timeframes, as I talked about, we're introducing a range of technologies from how you grow it to markers to just a whole raft of things to put a higher throughput. But once you've got a cycle going of variety development, then those varieties should be dropping out on a regular basis. So you're not talking about, well, I've developed a variety and in 20 years' time we'll get another one. What you're talking about is a pipeline so that you've got a continual development once you get to the stage that organisations like Monsanto are at now.
Okay, thank you, Dan and Peter. I need to close the session, so on behalf of all of us here at the conference, thank you for your presentations today. And we have a little gift I'll present to you later. Thank you.